The plain stretched wide and empty beneath a blistering sun, the kind of sun that burned the skin and seared the soul of anyone reckless enough to cross the desert without purpose. A lone cowboy rode slow along the cracked earth, his horse's hooves striking a steady rhythm like a heartbeat that refused to quit, even when the man's spirit threatened to collapse. His face was hardened by years of drifting, his hands scarred by fights he no longer remembered, and his eyes shadowed by losses that never let him rest. He had learned to survive without love, without roots, without hope. But life has a way of breaking even the strongest defenses when you least expect it. And on that lonely road, with dust rising behind his boots and silence pressing against his chest, he saw her, a rider emerging from the horizon like a vision, hair dark and untamed, eyes sharp as steel yet soft as a meadow at dawn. In that instant, his wandering heart, long buried under grit and pain, beat again with a force he could not deny. She didn't just ride into town that day. She rode into his heart, and everything changed. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, don't forget to like this video. Share it with someone who loves emotional stories. Leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to Moonlight Stories for more tales that touch the heart. The cowboy had spent years convincing himself that he was meant to be alone, that the dust of the trails was the only companion he would ever trust. But the woman who rode into his life defied every expectation he had carried. She was fierce and independent, unafraid to stand tall even when men twice her size tried to silence her. She carried herself with a strength forged from hardship, yet there was warmth in her smile that disarmed him more than any bullet ever could. The town knew her as a stubborn spirit, the kind of woman who refused to bow to rules she hadn't chosen, but to him, she became something more. She was the reminder that even the roughest roads could lead to beauty, that even broken men could find someone willing to see past the scars. Together they shared stolen evenings under painted skies, long rides across empty fields where laughter echoed louder than the wind, and moments so quiet it felt as if the whole world had paused just to watch them. But love, like the prairie wind, never holds still. Beneath her laughter and the strength she wore like armor, she carried secrets that weighed heavier than the saddlebags on her horse. She had come into his life fast, like a storm, and though she gave him hope he hadn't known in years, there was always a shadow in her eyes when he spoke of tomorrow. He began to feel it in the way she sometimes looked away, in the way her hand lingered on his before slipping too quickly back. She loved him, he knew it, but she was fighting something he could not name. And then one morning, when the sun rose golden over the town, she was gone. No note, no promise. Just dust where her horse had stood and silence where her voice had once filled his nights. She rode into his heart and left him to face the dust alone. The days that followed were heavier than any he had carried before. He rode out across the desert searching for her trail, but the land swallowed her tracks as if protecting her secret. He returned to town, hollow-eyed and restless, unable to eat, unable to speak. People whispered that she was never meant to stay, that women like her were too wild to belong to one man, but he couldn't let himself believe it. He had felt the truth in her touch, in the way she looked at him when she thought no one else could see. She had loved him, but something stronger than love had pulled her away. Alone in the nights with only the stars for company, he faced the kind of loneliness that stripped a man bare. It wasn't just losing her that broke him. It was the not knowing why. Time became a blur of dust and silence, yet slowly, painfully, he began to rise again. The cowboy who had once been reckless and lost found himself changed by the memory of her. She had shown him that love was worth the risk, even if it left scars deeper than any fight. He worked the land, helped the town, and began to build something steadier than the wandering life he had known. Each day was a battle against the emptiness she had left behind, but with every sunrise he carried a little less bitterness and a little more strength. He understood at last that sometimes people come into our lives not to stay, but to awaken something inside us we thought was gone forever. She had given him that gift, and though she left him to face the dust alone, she had also left him with the courage to live again. When the cowboy stood once more at the edge of the desert trail, staring at the horizon where she had disappeared, he no longer felt broken. He felt grateful. Love had come and gone, but it had reshaped him into a man who could face the dust and still keep walking. He tipped his battered hat to the sky, whispering thanks for the storm that had blown through his life, even if it had passed too quickly. And with the sun at his back, he rode forward, carrying her memory not as a wound but as a flame that would never go out. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Moonlight Stories, and help us bring more emotional tales of love, hope, and second chances. Special request, comment below. Do you believe love that leaves still makes us stronger? We'd love to hear your thoughts.